Between Two Dumbbells. I'm your host, Skip Hill, and I'm bringing over 40 years of bodybuilding experience to the table, including over 24 years of online coaching. I'm joined today, as usual, by my co-host, Dr. Marv, a.k.a. The Educated Meathead. For each show, we posit a thought about a training exercise or training methodology, and then we deep dive into the minutia. We might argue and debate, or we might agree and tell each other how smart we both are. But at the end of the discussion, we both decide if we smash or pass the topic of the day. Today, we start a new segment, finally. I'm Between Two Dumbbells called Skip's Cheat Meal Review. Whether you compete or not, do you even lift if you don't have a cheat meal? I mean, come on now, right? I'll cover everything from burgers to pizza to cookies and donuts. I'm a bodybuilder, but I'm a foodie as well. There's nothing worse than having a cheat meal that ends up being mediocre, and then you end up wasting what? That free meal that you get only once a week. Yep. So I'm going to help you out. Today I'll be reviewing online cookie companies because I've ordered from almost 30 cookie companies in the last 12 months. I don't play around, so I'll give you my top 5 best online cookie companies. Not going to give them all to you today. I'm going to milk it a little bit. And I'll even throw in a few passes to counter the smashes because I have spent $8 to $9 a cookie. And then I get the cookies and they ain't looking like the pictures and they ain't tasting like what they're supposed to taste like. So I'm going to help you out there. Normally we would do Dr. Marv's Rehab Prehab Rodeo Roundup segment. But today we're gonna stay with my cheat meal. I'm gonna love this.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna love it every single show. Clearly, I need to gotta
get the draw right.
Yeah, I gotta get it right. Couple shows, I'll have it right. Remember, every time you comment on the show on YouTube, you'll be included in a drawing at the end of each month to win a $150 shopping spree from EliteFTS.com. 5 pounds of Team Skip protein from TrueNutrition.com, and you'll receive Dr. Mar's online bodybuilding anatomy course. The more times you respond, the better your chances of winning. We'll post the winner for the month on my Intense Muscle IG account, and we'll also reach out to the winner via their YouTube account.
I know a thing or two about training, but I built a reputation in the bodybuilding industry for removing skin. If you have too much skin, call me. Remember, skin is overrated.
Dr. Marv, take it and run with it.
All right, so I've got another posit, and we're going to go back to the arms since our bicep episode was so well received.
It was.
Yep, I'm very excited. So I'm going to posit, and we're going to break a lot of hearts, but I'm going to posit that I think most people grossly misunderstand tricep training and are just kind of majoring in the minors, sniper rifle versus shotgun, focusing on the wrong things, not understanding really what they need to do for tricep training. So overall, I posit that you're probably training your triceps wrong, and let's get you training them correctly.
And if not wrong, at least not optimally.
Correct.
And that's, I don't want to make it sound like I'm correcting you, but at the same time, that you can train them and you can be like, this is pretty good, but it's probably not optimal. And that's what we're focused on. We're focused on the details, the minutia, and optimizing everything. So I think this is going to be a great topic, especially to follow up after bicep. I agree.
Yeah, because again, what's a fact? A consistent adherence to a subpar program will always outperform sporadic adherence to a so-called perfect program. And there's no such thing as perfect. But if you're going to be doing the work, let's make sure your ROI is there.
Right.
And that this will play off of last week's episode as well, where we kind of both got on our soapboxes a little bit, trying to help the younger crowd to focus on meat and potatoes, global movements, not finishers, pink dumbbell, pinky twist stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to go on record out of the box or out of the gates.
Okay.
And say that to me, there's no difference between triceps and biceps when it comes to recovery. It's still an issue when someone, a client, a friend, some random person on the internet, I get a lot of messages and I always answer them. Now, if they're in depth and they're very, very detailed, that's different. But I usually will respond to 99% of the questions that come my way, whether they be DMs or emails or whatever else. And that goes for BSG too, because I do get a lot of gear questions. At the same time, I still tell people, if likely you're overtraining your arms. And when we say arms, we talked about it on the bicep episode, but it's the same thing with triceps. I feel that parallel is still there with triceps. A lot of times, if your triceps aren't growing, you're probably training them too frequently with too much intensity or too much volume. Really no different than the discussion that we had for biceps. And I would even go so far as to say it could be argued that there's more tricep involvement with heavy pressing than there is direct bicep involvement with pulling.
I know a thing or two about training, but I built a reputation in the bodybuilding industry for removing skin. If you have too much skin, call me. Remember, skin is overrated.
And the only reason I would say that is because a lot of that pulling, even though the biceps are going to be hit, a lot of it is brachialis.
Yes.
Too. So
more brachialis than bicep for sure. So I agree with your statement.
No. So again, when it comes to recovery, I just wanted to get that out of the way so that I don't forget about it. I'll add one more thing. I'm happy to see that I've been around long enough that the close grip bench press, we've moved away from it quite a bit in the industry. And I know there's a lot of people who love the movement. If I'm going to do the movement, I'll finish with it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel that there's so much tricep involvement with regular pressing that it does seem redundant to me. Not saying it's not effective. All I'm saying is it's kind of redundant. So I'd rather get a better range of motion. I'm a range of motion guy when it comes to biceps and triceps. And I would even argue that, like I said, I believe I said this during the bicep segment, that once you invest quite a few years into your training, a lot of your arm size is going to be maintained in potential growth just from the heavy basics from pushing and pulling anyway. So to me, direct arm work really isn't. I think it should be more range of motion, more stretch and squeeze, and should be trained a little bit differently than, say, chest, shoulders, back, and legs. But I've said a lot, so I'm going to hand it off.
I'm excited because we're going to disagree on a few points.
Good.
Finally.
Good.
Finally.
Yep.
Let's do the anatomy breakdown. I've got some fun factoids and studies to point out, and then we will rock and roll from there. Unless you got anything else to add.
Oh, I got plenty to add, but you better take it first.
Yeah. Okay, so triceps. In case you didn't know, triceps for 3. You've got 3 heads. So it's kind of weird. My anatomy app, I can't isolate the deepest head called your medial head, which is medial is the inner side, right? So there's the medial head. Okay. Then you have your outer or lateral head. And then in my opinion, the most important head, the long head. So the long head, let's see if I could pull this away. Nope. Interesting. So it's buried by muscle, but the long head is the only one that crosses the shoulder joint, right? And will attach on the actual shoulder blade itself. So long head tricep does that. Long head bicep does that. So they're biarticular muscles, meaning they have actions on 2 joints, which means they both could deal with something called active insufficiency we've covered, where if you are shortening this muscle from both sides, right? So you're going to have, shoulder flexion, elbow extension. There's not going to be a ton of tension in the long head because it's overly short. It is most active in overhead movements. We're going to talk about this, but if you're going to do isolative tricep work, I think it should be only focus on the long head. We could talk about that. This is also very important for athletes I've discussed, especially throwing athletes, because it is a huge stabilizer of the shoulder. So it's going to do shoulder extension. So you can see here, it is one of the muscles you can see where it attached to the shoulder blade that does actual hyper extension going behind you, right? So that's going to be really important action to train. And then, of course, it's going to be doing elbow extension like everything else, but it is a major stabilizer of the shoulder girdle.
I see a PGA or a PJR
pullover.
I can't even get it out.
I love those, which I know you're not a fan of. So I love close grip bench and I love PGR.
Yep.
Then we have our lateral head. Its job is elbow extension and elbow extension and elbow extension. So this is your most visible, right? It's going to be
Right.
getting hit on all press downs and all presses. So I personally don't waste my time trying to isolate this. I did, though, have some fun and filmed the quote unquote science-based optimal length and partial movements for each head. So we could show that and then show you which one I would worry about.
Okay.
And then lastly is this guy, the medial head, right? That's on the inner side. Again, elbow extension and elbow extension, right? And then just a fun fact, we have this little guy called your incuneus, which also helps with a little bit of elbow extension. So it's a little dude. So triceps are not the only thing that extend the elbow, but it's relatively weak and more doing lockout positions.
But you don't want to lose a show by having a weak incuneus.
Yes.
So don't overlook this muscle because the judges won't.
Yep. All right. So there we go. So there's the anatomy breakdown. Where would you like to take it? Just some of the research I found, or?
Yeah, let's start with the research. I think that's a good move.
Yep. Okay. So, if anybody knows, because Sci-Hub finally got shut down. So they're cracking on finding publications for free. So Google Scholar is a backup, but I couldn't find some of these. So if any of our listeners has something else similar to Sci-Hub to get full articles, please let me know. All right. So they did a really cool study where they did one arm in an overhead position and then one arm with a neutral position, and they did press downs, right? And so they did 12 weeks and they compared the growth from arm to arm. And what was really cool, and they did an MRI to figure out muscle size, so pretty damn accurate, which was good. All three heads grew most from the overhead position, with the long head having the most growth of 1 point times that, the neutral elbow by side press down. But the whole tricep grew more, even the medial and the lateral head. So based on this study, this is a much bigger bang for your buck than your traditional press down. So fun fact, and I think most of us agree, it's an area of contention. Does stretch mediated hypertrophy happen in the triceps? Regardless, I love an overhead with a big stretch or triceps full of blood. I mean, God, it feels great when it almost feels like it's going to rip off the bone. So there's that. Now, this next study, I could only read the abstract, but what they're talking about is an overhead and a lying dumbbell. So overhead, more French press style. Lying dumbbell, I am assuming they're talking more skull crusher style, right? But again, abstract didn't do the world's best job describing it.
Oh, that's a shocker.
I know. And I didn't want to spend 188 British pounds to get it for this. Sorry, guys. Sorry, listeners. I give a damn, but I don't give that much of a damn.
But I'm not going to pay to give a damn. Yeah.
Correct. So, but they said that they had similar activation patterns and that they pretty much were redundant. So do one or the other. So don't force anything, which, side note, we've talked about this multiple times. Do not force an exercise. Skull crushers are notoriously brutal on elbows unless you're Dusty Hanshaw, right? And he'll even say, people tell me all the time my elbows are killing me doing skull crushers. Then don't do them, right? So find what overhead movement you could do. Now, old school, I don't really see anybody doing this. A close grip where your fingers are touching push-up has phenomenal tricep activation. Phenomenal. So on the screen are the graphs showing both the long head and the lateral head growing most from that close grip push-up. This study was actually pretty cool. They looked at 12 different muscles. They did whole, standard, wide, narrow, arms in front, arms behind. Pretty cool, right? I wish I could do tricep based push-ups, but I can't with my bad wrist. But that is that's gone away, right? Those diamond push-ups, man, those are one of my brutal
finishers. Love it.
I think they are spectacular. I know people do. Another study was really cool, and I'm going to have to look at notes for this, where they figured out what are the best exercise pairings if you're pairing chest with triceps to push the max amount of volume, i.e. one of the main drivers of hypertrophy. So really cool study. They had folks either do a Smith flat barbell press, a free barbell press, or a dumbbell press. So they did 4 sets of as many reps as they could do with a 10 rep max weight, resting 2 minutes in between. And then they all did the same 4 sets with a 10 rep max for as many reps as they could with test checking EMG with just a traditional tricep press down or extension. So let's talk activation first. The triceps activation was higher during the Smith and free barbell compared to dumbbells. Pec activation was highest with the dumbbell. Front delt was highest in the Smith. And as you would
Really?
expect, that's
Could be
because
poor positioning too.
that, or there's no stability demands. So
Okay.
you could have more mechanical tension where you want it. And I agreed with the author's theories, which I'll cover in a sec. And then the last one, so I don't forget, as expected, biceps was highest in the dumbbell press, because remember, your biceps, the primary stabilizer on the front of the shoulder.
Mhm.
Now, volume. So who got the most reps, right? Dumbbells had the highest volume. And then when they did the tricep extensions, the group that did the free barbell first, then went to tricep extensions, had the most volume for triceps. So according to this, if you want to maximally get as much out of your training, you would do a flat barbell bench press, which I don't like,
Right.
and then triceps press down. So why did this happen? So obviously the dumbbell press is going to have the highest pec recruitment because of stabilization. You could adjust the range of motion. You could find the groove, right?
Yeah.
The triceps activation and volume after the free and Smith barbell due to more, triceps involvement to stabilize the elbows in a fixed pass. And then like we're talking about stability, that's why I like stability after you've built the base with free weights. I think you should spend some time free weights with gravity. Then you could advance to more stable movements once you know how to train. Because if I'm in a locked bar path, I could really, really focus on tricep and chest and all that. So that's their theories why. So you're able to put more of that load into the tricep on a Smith, which then would make it a little bit more beat up when you did your extensions. So that was pretty cool. And then a couple more. You could play around with speed with press downs. So rep tempo could change it slightly. I was still slightly confused trying to read the study this morning to where, they're saying all 3 heads rate of fatigue is different, but then they didn't say which one fatigued first or second or third, just that the heads fatigue differently. So rep tempo could change and primarily affect the lateral head and the long head, while the medial head saw no difference if you speed up the rep tempo or not. So I think that's more for like garage gym trainers, like we've talked about.
Yeah.
Rep tempo is a way to take the same movement and change it. So that was your traditional things. Now, dips, as you would expect, a bar or a ring dip is going to have higher tricep activation than a bench dip. But bench dips require a hell of a lot more shoulder extension. To me, the old school bench dips are job security for me because most people mess it up. But if you want to do, work on your dips, start with a bench dip, then work your way up there. Ring dips, obviously with CrossFit, with all the CrossFitters I treat, I'll have multiple pec and bicep tears every single year from a ring dip.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. I think one year, this is off the top of my head, I think like over 30 people had a pec tear at the games, something like that, where it's just like, come on guys, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You potentially ended the careers of your best people.
Mhm.
Anyways, but nobody's looked at, there hasn't been a lot of studies, or I really couldn't find any, if shoulder extension and looking at different heads. So the dip study I just mentioned, they just looked at the triceps as a whole. They didn't break down different heads. Close grip bench, which we'll talk about why, I'm a big fan. You might not be. I get the overlap, right? I don't do I don't do any flat benching. So like the only flat benching I would do would be a close grip on a Smith machine. So I'm not getting that crazy redundancy you were talking about. So
Right.
I understand that. Obviously closer is going to be more triceps than a normal grip. Duh. The lateral head gets hit the most. Now, as the load goes up in benching period, especially over 90% of your 1 rep max, the long head has to kick in just because it has to move the weight. The medial head hasn't been studied, but close grip benching is primarily a medial and lateral head movement with a little bit of long head. Now, one last thing, and then I'll turn it over to you before we talk about what I like. what everybody does for their press downs, the V bar, their elbows are wide and they're doing this. One, you're leveraging your whole body weight to do it. So don't put your body over the damn rope. But two, if you're going to do a press down, and we could show it on screen, either you want a very long handle or 2 rope handles. So we're not in extreme shoulder internal rotation. When I get in this position, it changes the length tension relationship of my long head, and excessive internal rotation will inhibit the long head. So all your press downs like this are still blasting the muscles that you're already hitting on all your presses and any tricep movement. So either you do one arm at a time, like Chris is showing on the screen right now, which if you're going to do a press down, I think that is the best one to hit all 3 heads. Or you're going to do a super long rope attachment or 2 ropes. You're not an asshole for using 2 ropes. Like, you have a reason, just put them back as soon as you're done. Let people work in, right? Don't be doing giant sets, hogging 2 ropes at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. Right. But regardless, you want that less internal rotation, more straight pressing down. And that alone will fix people's press downs. And then, that was a lot. So we could talk about it, and then I could show the science lengthen based stuff, and the only one I would do out of the 3. But I
want to go back to the Smith machine real quick because of the anterior delt. It's sticking in my brain. The anterior delt was getting more involvement. Did it say, and it probably didn't, whether the Smith machine was straight up and down or whether it was angled?
No, I looked for that and I did not see that.
Okay. Because obviously with an angle, then the next question becomes, which way are they facing?
Yep.
Yeah. And the reason that I bring that up too is, even if it's straight up and down, the position and not only the position of where that bar is going to travel as far as, excuse me, while I bang the shit out of my microphone, but where that bar is going to make contact with the pec, essentially based on the bar path.
There's a lot could be done. Yes.
Right. And not only that, but then there's the fight against the machine. So if you're in a position, let's say they were forced into a position where, okay, it needs to be here because we want this bar path, and they're not used to that, and they're pressing against the machine. And what I mean by against the machine is if it goes straight up and down, but they're pressing more in here or more in here against the machine. And that's any machine. That could be a hammer strength. That could be anything. And that's one of the keys that people, I think, sometimes miss is you need to be pressing or pulling, quite frankly, with the path that the machine was set up for and what your position is in that machine. A good example, and I'm not trying to get off topic on chest or, on chest or back or anything else, because we're focused on tricep. But if you're doing a row on a hammer strength and you don't have that seat set correctly, then you could be pulling against the machine as well. So all these things need to be taken. I'm explaining that to come back to my point, basically, of the Smith machine and the anterior involvement, because it's kind of a light bulb when I go, wait a minute, there's more involvement with the anterior delt on the Smith machine when the bar is fixed and the position is fixed versus you can press a regular barbell free weight in the path that you want to press it. Yep. And then there's not as much anterior delt involvement. So that my light bulb isn't very bright. The wattage is quite low, but it still kind of went off. It got a little bright there for a second.
I mean, I'll say there's times where I think a Smith machine's more advanced than free weights for stuff like that.
Sure.
Right. So like people go, oh, it's easy. Maybe not necessarily.
Right.
Like there is a learning curve because you can't, oh, I missed that. Like how many people know, the bar coming here to there is going to change a lot. Is a newbie going to do that? I don't know.
What about probably a guillotine press?
Exactly. Yep.
So
I love guillotine. Yeah. I'm a huge fan. It needs to be respected. It is my favorite upper chest builder of all time. Yep. I finally got off my high horse and included it in my workout subscription options. Before I'd be like, I will never show it online. Then I was like, it is my favorite of all time, but it needs to be respected. But again, yeah, so it was just interesting. I still will not program a flat barbell bench because unless you're a power lifter or you're doing an AMRAP at a strongman, which I've not seen a bench AMRAP at strongman in forever, don't do
I don't think it's a bad finisher, if I'm being honest.
Especially like the cambered bar we talked about,
Yep.
like that, or the football bar. That's awesome. Yep.
Performance chiropractic and sports medicine in the Houston Bay Area, telemedicine and nutrition coaching all over Texas. And if you're not in Texas, don't worry. You still do consults through the educatedmeathead.com, where you also find workout programs, seminar recordings, and online courses.
But in terms of like, okay, let's get 405 first movement out of the gates.
Exactly.
Like we used to. No.
And I think that's 90 of the people who bench press. That's 98% of them right there. I can hear the viewers going, why would I put it at the end? I'm not going to have as much weight on the bar.
Yep.
That's the whole point. And I'm a stop rep kind of guy when it comes to bench press. When I come down, I literally stop. It's a dead stop.
Yep.
And then
Love
up, full lock, down, and then it's just dead stop. Now, the other question that I had was, is there any active insufficiency on a tricep press down?
Depending where your shoulder is.
Okay.
So like,
because I'm not a fan of the whole leaning in. That's a 1980s thing anyway.
Oh, like the leaning overhead?
Yeah. The cable, if the cable's on one side of your head, wrongo dongo. Yeah. You're just doing them wrong. And I understand Sean Ray did that. A lot of the guys back in the 80s did that. That is not a symmetrically, that's not a balanced movement. If you're leaning to one side, you've got more work happening on one side of the body.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And again, quit using your whole body weight leaning over the cable.
Right.
Like if you really want to know what your true tricep strength is, first of all, you're going to use the cable on the rig that nobody uses because it's a single pulley up top with the back pad. You're going to put your back against the pad. Your elbows are going to stay by your side. You're not going to let it move. You're not going to be putting 135 pounds on the cable, folks, but your triceps will thank you in the long run.
And I've heard people say, well, my triceps are so strong, I have to lean into it. No, they're not. And no, you don't.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to fool? No. Stand straight up or as upright as you need to. Because I know sometimes it'll be a reminder to me because I'll be like, damn, I can feel my abs so much. And I shouldn't have to. Yes, they will stabilize, but not to the point where if your abs, like if you're shaking and your abs are fatiguing while you're doing a tricep press down, you're doing something wrong. Yeah. Because that shouldn't happen.
And there's times where if I'm doing the two ropes, if the cable isn't high enough, I will kneel and just be upright to make sure my elbow's by my side. So I'm getting that full stretch. So you're going to have to play around with that. But yeah.
Or you can do an overhead where if you're going to lean in, put your ass against the column. Well, I say it's a column because usually it is a double pulley because you need one of the single pulleys to do that. It doesn't work well on the single pulley because you need to brace yourself somewhere.
Yep.
And I always laugh and tell my wife, like, your ass looks really good when you do that. So I'm going to be getting a picture over here. We're going to usually I'm programming that exercise a little more if I'm training with her than without. I kind of contradicted myself. So before someone busts me, I'm going to make it clear because I did say, hey, I like to finish with close grip push-ups. Sometimes they're not even on my feet. Sometimes they're on my knees because I want higher reps and I want to get a good contraction at the top, a hold at the bottom, and people will see me doing them from my knees and they're like, oh, you're doing little girly push-ups. That's because it's the end of my tricep workout. And I want to get more than 8 reps or 6 reps out of this finisher. But here's the contradiction, just where I contradict myself. I'll do that as a finisher, but I'm not a fan of the close grip bench.
Okay.
And I can't explain that. I'm just going to be honest. Because essentially, it's the same movement.
Yeah.
Now, you can change your hand position to be higher or lower with a push-up a lot easier than you can. You can even, sometimes I'll do this. I won't do them on the floor. I'll sit the Smith machine to its lowest point and do them on the lowest, on that with the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And that can increase your reps too, because obviously the higher the incline, the easier they'll be. So if you want to increase your reps, then just set the Smith machine bar a little bit higher instead of going all the way to the floor to the lowest position on the Smith. But I think that is probably the reason why I prefer the push-up, because I can change my hand position, where on the close grip, I'm pretty much locked into that one bar path.
Yeah.
Because if it gets too low, it just doesn't feel right. And if it gets too high, then same thing.
Now, just a clinical gem, if kneeling push-ups really hurt your back, because it can put your back in a weird shearing position, especially when you have good core control or you don't know how to position your hips or your pelvis, just elevate your hands rather than being on your knee. So the higher your hand up, the less weight it is. So that's a way to modulate load, similar to Skip going from his knees is, and you could do a close grip on a barbell or on a Smith, right? And then slowly lower the bar down closer to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way to progress it. So if push-ups from your knees always kills your low back, start doing the proper way to plank, which we've shown in our core exercise. Get out, quit doing your hip flexors, and then learn low back control. And then if you're still having issues, just elevate your hands. So do a hands elevated, push up, close grip, whatever you want to do, and slowly lower your hands down as a way to increase the load.
I do have a mini posit that I want to throw in here.
Okay.
Because I do posit, and I know this flies in the face of a lot of things that other trainers say, and arguably the science as well. So I'll let you, because I want to know what your response is to what I posit. I typically open with a press down. It's a safe movement for me. There is very little risk. It gets everything warm, and it doesn't put my elbows in a vulnerable position. Typically V-bar, rarely rope. The only reason it's rarely rope is because a lot of my extensions that I do, whether they be skull crusher, I do with dumbbells. And I was one of the first ones. I'm not going to lay claim to inventing the movement, but I was one of the first ones to consistently use a neutral grip with dumbbells for extensions on different angles, from decline to flat to incline, and different levels of incline to overhead. Consistently as a major part of my tricep workout, tricep, protocol. And I think it worked real well. But here's my question. Isn't it safe to say that if you're hitting the medial head, you're hitting the outer head?
Mm-hmm.
There's really no way where we can give a little bit, or a lot more focus on the long head, even though all heads are working. A little bit more focus on the long head by opening up that angle because of the attachment to the scapula, going overhead or high incline, whatever you want to do. But with the medial head and the outer head, I just don't see how you can favor one over the other. But one of the things that I do that I try to put more emphasis on the outer head is when I open, instead of a V-bar or an easy curl bar with hands over, and I typically go out to where most people would curl.
Yeah.
I'm not in here real tight in this bend,
which
I'm
is
out
already
here in this bend.
Better, like what we talked about with the long head anyways. Yeah.
Fair enough. And I know the reason I do that is I can get a better contraction.
That's why. Yep.
Now, what I do for every now and then, I don't do it terribly frequently because it's hard to hang on to because I have to use straps. But I will go with an underhand grip all the way out to the end of the easy curl bar. And I like the easy curl bar because it does have a little bit of a slight bend on the outside, but I have to use my straps. And I will do the reverse tricep press down. And I don't care what anybody says, which is kind of rough because I'm basically saying I don't care what you say either.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, my point is this: the emphasis or the feel is so much deeper in the outer head of the tricep that I will not believe that that area of the tricep is not being favored in that underhanded or that underhand grip. What say you?
So Yeah, the thing that matters the most is your shoulder and elbow position in relation to each other. But technically, an underhand grip would be a little bit more long head. I just find, like you said, you got to use your straps. Your grip or your wrist is really the limiting factor versus a more neutral or
The
overhand
long
grip.
head, huh?
The long head will actually be, it's the
Damn.
same as taking it out of this internal rotation, right? You're opening it up. So you're able to get more long head because you're not inhibiting it by having it be dramatically internally rotated. So but again, you're getting a better contraction of the tricep. So great, rock and roll. Yeah,
It's
I
just
just
an
don't
odd-
program it because most people's grip is going to give out,
Yeah.
but you're using straps. But you've already figured that out. Yep.
Yeah. I just know, I've had a couple weeks off. I
Mhm.
haven't been training. So when I go in tomorrow and I train, say, chest and triceps, which I'm not, but the point is if I did,
Yep.
I do that movement, the outer head of my tricep is going to be fried. It's going to be sore the next day,
Mhm.
and my long head won't be. That's what's
Interesting.
odd to me. I know, right? I feel the same way. It's
Yeah.
like, ugh. And
Interesting.
that I think comes back to the individual component of structure. Like I'm narrow shouldered. Maybe that plays a part into it. It allows me to have my elbows literally jammed next to me and they're just locked. They're just not moving. But that squeeze at the bottom, I mean, even moving through my tricep workout to other tricep exercises, I will literally feel the outer head of my triceps not wanting or not being able to do and carry a lot of the weight. It's almost like it has to shift to the other heads because that outer head is fried so bad. And here's the reason that I started doing that and playing with it is because the outer head tends to develop for vast majority of people first. That's what we notice. No one's going to start training and go, wow, my long head of my triceps is getting really huge. We see the outer head or the horseshoe, if you will. And I did when I was younger. I felt like I had a pretty well-developed outer or lateral head of my tricep. Over the years, it's really almost become weaker in comparison and visually to the long head and arguably to the medial head.
Or is your long head and medial head getting better?
Could be. It very well could be. And the outer head is not. But no matter what the reason, that's where my brain goes. And I go, yeah, I want to put a little bit more focus on them. Another thing, too, is when I finish with close grip push-ups, or I finish, one of my favorite finishers is the hammer strength dip. I get a lot of outer head. And I do a variation. I call it the Garanda variation, even though that this isn't what he did specifically. When you see the handles, the view will be up here, the picture of the hammer strength handles. But they start, they come out, then they come neutral, they come back, and then they veer out again. Typically, I'm on the back bend. But if I want to mix it up and I want a little more outer head, I'll go lighter and I'll move my hand up to that short front grip.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a forward press. And I mean, we're talking about maybe a 45 on each side and a quarter. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of weight here. There's not a ton of weight being moved, but as a finisher, it's great. It has that similar feel to the close grip push-up in the position that I typically go with. And that, to me, again, is a lot of outer head. I'm surprised, not disappointed, but I'm surprised that there's so much long head involvement in that push-up. I would not have known. It's not that I don't feel it, but I do other long head movements. And we both agree, because we have in the past several times, that the bulk of your tricep exercises or your tricep workout should involve or be focused on the long head. Arguably because there's more potential for growth and for size, just sheer mass, because it will take up so much more room. And when you do a front double bicep, bam, that's going to add a lot of size to that picture because it allows your triceps to drop down. Same with the side tricep pose or the typical pose for your prejudging mandatories.
Yep.
When that's smashed up against your side and you've got a lot of long head size there, that's going to look pretty good. But if you want that outer head, So
Mhm.
if you're me, you're going, I got to make sure I hit this outer head. But the reason I asked is because I wondered if maybe over time, because I've trained for a long time, that medial head has started to grow so much that for some reason, a lot of this neutral work is hitting the medial head harder. I don't know. I've tried changing elbow position. I've tried to shift it more to the outer head, but it does feel like it's a predominantly like I'm just nailing that medial head.
Nice. Yeah, and both will give the 3D look. So here, let's do this. Let me share my screen one more time with the whole lengthened movements for all three parts of the triceps that I see everybody doing, and then which one I would do that you and I kind of alluded to. This is the only one I would do. And I have my arm anchored against the machine, so it's highly stable. This is getting your long head in its lengthened position. My upper arm, it's hard to see, but it's slightly forward. It's not out to my side, so it's in scaption plane. This, I think, is a valuable, good to go. See the green check mark. Again, I'm anchoring my arm, so if you have a machine like this, it's awesome to anchor it, so it's highly stable. There's no body English. You're not cheating. So big fan. I use wrist cuffs because of my bad wrist and elbow and shoulder, so it helps me out. Now, good Lord. Okay, here is if you want to work the lateral head, this is the biomechanically optimal way. Again, your all press downs and pressing is going to hit it. If you want to set this up, go for it. I wouldn't waste my time. And then if you want to get your medial head, this is biomechanically what it would look like. Once again, I'm not going to waste my time with it. But if you want to know what it is, great. But that's how you could isolate the heads in this lengthened position that everybody talks about. I would only do this one, right? That's why I'm showing it again in this video. To each their own. But what I do is I will do a long head isolation movement, and I like, the cross arm, elbow extended extensions, because that is getting your long head fully shortened. So I think
I like
that
it too
is
because you're
viable.
doing both at the same time.
Yep.
That one arm at a time
Correct.
ain't working for me.
Yep.
We all know that.
Yep. I do like one arms. I love PGR pullovers. You could do, the overhead, if you want to call it a French press or whatever you want to do. The leaning overhead ones, I like that. But I will do isolation for the long head first, and then a compound movement. Right now, I really like close grip bench. I love dips. I love this on the screen, this banded press down on a pull-up assist machine I learned from John Meadows. There was a period of time that was the only compound movement I could do for triceps outside of a machine chest press with how bad my elbows and shoulder were. So that's a great one. But I am not going to do, again, we kind of talked about it last episode when we recorded, where you see kids on the cables doing all these fancy variations, but I'm like, you're doing 20, 30 pound cable movements, isolating everything, but you can't bench 135 or whatever, right? So I do isolation first, then compound, and it's only 2 movements for your triceps because you've already done a lot of work with all your chest movements.
Yeah, and I have a similar approach with the isolation coming before the compound movements. Absolutely. I am a big fan, and not a lot of people are. It's kind of become an antiquated movement where and some people will just do them standing, and that's fine. And some people do them seated without bracing, and that's fine too. But I prefer a very high incline, and it's gonna be up here on the screen for people to see. But very high incline, hands together, one dumbbell behind the head. This exercise has become antiquated, probably for 2 reasons. Number one, everybody wants to move a 140-pound dumbbell, and it's laborious. It's a very laborious task to get into position. Then they argue that it hurts my elbows, so now it's a vulnerable position for the elbows. My argument is you don't need to go absurdly heavy. So number one.
This?
Yep. Exactly. Now, let me be clear on something, though, too. I'm not as much of a fan of this as I am this.
Okay.
I want the elbows in. Obviously, it's hard because this is my office, my desk seat. It's not a seat in the gym. So I would want my upper arm to obviously not be forward. I'd want it back as far as possible. But the point is much like a lying we call them skull crushers. I want to
Mhm.
call them a lying tricep extension
Yep.
because I'm not a football player and never
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
Or was briefly, but not long enough to be able to label myself that. The skull crusher thing is more of a football moniker, in my opinion, or a powerlifting moniker. And the other thing too is I'm not bringing that bar to my skull. I'm bringing it to the top of my head. So where you like a PJR pullover, I
Mhm.
still want that stretch, and I want that scapula to open a little bit, and my upper arm to be a little bit more 90 degrees to the floor versus being tucked in here, which is what Dusty does. And I've always seen him do them. And I always cringe because I think, man, is that tricep tendon in a bad position? And yet he's done them for years with ridiculous amount of weight. Justin Harris as well. I mean, we're
Mhm.
talking the guy can do like
They have
225.
they have Teflon elbows.
It's
like my elbows
Justin's-
explode watching.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
benched that, and you're doing lying tricep extensions with it. But Justin says the same thing. He's like, I've never had elbow issues. I've never had inflammation that has made me go, yeah, this isn't a good movement. It's
Mhm.
just always been, and this falls back to the individual component of they just feel good to him, and arguably to Dusty as well.
Mhm.
They don't to me. They make me cringe. So I want to have that kind of an open angle between my
Mhm.
torso and my
Because
upper arm.
you're doing what the study said, or that slight scaption, right,
Right.
is ideal for that. I will say, if you're doing that with the free weights that Skip's talking about and your elbows are a little cranky, open it up slightly. Yes, biomechanically it's not as great, but it'll help your elbows. Or do a rope and a cable, right? So the cable, the continuous tension will be a little bit easier. I did a ton of these. I was crazy strong at skull crushers and French press, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? I think part of the reason my elbows are messed up is because I got way too strong in forced ranges of motion,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, great movement. But again, isolation should be long head, and then I like compounds for the majority of it, but to each their own. But quit worrying about medial versus lateral because it's already going to be getting hit.
Yeah. And that goes back to the sniper shotgun
Mm-hmm.
approach as
Yep.
well. If you're not very big, just bang and clang. Good form.
Yep.
But
Yes.
don't start getting into the details and assessing weaknesses when you don't have enough size
correct.
to really have a weakness yet.
Yeah, because like I've said, and I'm on record multiple times, biceps is a lot of stretch and squeeze. Isolation is heavier compound, but when you're doing your isolation, make sure you feel it where it is, and you'll go from there.
And I treat triceps very similar to biceps in that sense, the stretch and squeeze, but you don't, I don't think. I think you feel
my
that there's a little
isolation
bit
is
more.
a stretch and squeeze, and then load those suckers up.
Right.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Yep. We differ a little bit there too, which is good.
Yep.
Again, it just shows that there are different ideology and different ways to get to the top of the mountain.
Correct.
Different avenues, but we're all trying to arrive at the same destination.
But that's the fun part. People get all frustrated and annoyed. I'm like, no, that's awesome. Because
yeah, and it's not even necessarily right or wrong.
correct.
It's just
Mhm.
a different approach.
And what do you enjoy?
Right.
I would be bored out of my mind if I trained like you. You would be neurotic and unenjoyed if you trained like me, right? But like it's still fun. We still agree on like 80 to 90%.
Yep.
Other than like that big 10 to 20, it's a big one. But but that's the fun part, right?
Yep.
And nobody wants to experiment anymore.
I agree.
I'm like, dude, when's the last time you thought critically for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
But
agreed. On that note, what are we going to smash? What are we going to pass?
Mm-hmm. So I will smash that you're probably training your triceps wrong.
Yeah.
Do what we do because we know everything. If you haven't figured it out, we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're welcome. Send your checks in the mail. But yeah, I guess smashing isolation should be long head and then heavy compound for the rest of your triceps.
Definitely a smash on that. I'll pass on a couple things just to point out.
Okay. Yep.
Just so that if you're going to do an overhead type of movement, like I was talking about with the one dumbbell extension, don't open with it. Definitely. That's a
Yes.
big,
Okay.
big pass
Yeah,
for
I
me.
missed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to get those suckers warmed up.
Yep. So that's very important. I'm also going to make it a point to pass that if you do have any type of inflammation from these movements, you can always try to change, like you were talking about, the path of the dumbbell. You can change the elbow position, everything else. But if you can't get around it or you feel it's a vulnerability, pass on it.
Yep.
Don't
Yep.
force an exercise that is
Correct.
that doesn't feel good.
Or do what I do, which is stupid and smart at the same time. And I'll do a round of blood flow restriction, the 30, 15, 15, 15 from Dr. Jeremy Lenicky. And then I will do my tricep training. And your elbows are so warm. There's so much cushioning and leverages. That might buy you a little bit because you've already warmed it up. But yeah, don't force it. You know, you're most likely not Dusty or Justin, which is why most people can't do skull crushers long term.
Or you would know by now.
Same. Yeah, I find the same with JM presses. On paper, they're great. I don't know how many people could do a JM press who've been doing this a long period of time. Oh, I think tape presses from the world of powerlifting are underutilized in bodybuilding. I think that's a cool variation. But I mean, yes, I mean, Skip, how many people who've been training 20, 30 years could do a skull crusher that you know of? Very few. Very
I got
few.
one more smash.
Yep.
And that is this. If you have any type of concern with creaky elbows, one might hurt a little bit, biceps before triceps.
Yes.
If you are training them in the same session. That is something that I have gone to in the last couple years, and it's great. Couple warm-up sets of press downs, my triceps are ready to go, versus 5, 6, 7 warm-ups for triceps if I come in and train them out right out of the gate.
Floss, voodoo floss on your elbows, doing some light press downs first too is amazing. Floss is so underutilized in all sports and lifting. Man, it takes 2 minutes to do, and it could be similar to like a blood flow of warming everything up, it's called superficial glide. Everything's gliding better. You're increasing range of motion. You're decreasing pain signaling. So that might open up a few more movements to you. But the next day, if you're just like, oh my God, I can't move my elbow without it screaming right there, you probably should not do what you just did.
Agreed. I label myself as the Cookie Monster. I know Nick Walker, he wants that moniker so bad, and he's pretty good with cookies too. We exchange notes. In fact, he pushed me while I was in Pittsburgh to run down Cookie, PGH, which is spelled Cookey. They have a trailer. They're kind of like a pop-up.
Okay.
Kind of the equivalent of a food truck. And for those who don't live in an urban setting, food trucks typically can have some of the best food. They just don't have the financial backing, and they're not in a financial position to be able to invest or have enough money to have a storefront. They're building to that. They're building their reputation and their brand and a following, kind of a customer base, but they don't have the financial backing to have a storefront. Cookie PGH, I'm not going to give away where they are on my list, because what I'm going to do is I have my top 5. Now I've ordered from pretty much roughly, I didn't count them, but I can rattle them off in my brain. It's about 30 online cookie companies over roughly the last year. And I have found that some suck, really. And a lot of these cookies are $8, $9 a piece. I mean, good. And here's the thing with cookies too that people need to understand. I'm not a big fan of the 17-pound cookie that you break in half and 4 gallons of caramel comes out and 42 candy bars and all this. To me, that's a very decadent dessert. And it's not that it doesn't taste good, but it's not a cookie.
Yeah.
So one of the qualifications for me is it has to be a cookie. It has to look like a cookie, not this big mound of stuff inside of what is supposed to be a cookie. It needs to look like a cookie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give out of the top 5, I'm going to give my 4th and 5th place, and I'm going to consider that the smash. And then I'm going to give a pass. And I'll tell you what's going to happen, Dr. Marv. In the comments, I'm going to have at least 5, maybe 10 people argue with my smash. But here's the thing.
Please do, folks.
Yes. And this is a preference thing. So if you're coming at, it's the same thing with burgers. I'm in a lot of foodie groups on social media, and people will argue about anything. If you think we're bad in bodybuilding, it's the same in, food. It's the same. I'm in grammar forums where people are legit, they're linguists. They study and they'll argue. These old white men, professors, will argue with each other, and it's hilarious. So everybody argues with everybody, and everybody thinks they're right. It's not just the bodybuilding industry. So it's a matter of preference. But I will say this. I've had a lot of cookies. I've had a lot of burgers. I've had a lot of brunches. I've traveled a lot. I do my due diligence. Anywhere I go, I've already know where to go to get really good food. Not that's been reviewed on Yelp. People on Yelp don't know shit. The best burger is at this place. No, you're an alcoholic, so you like to drink there, and it's a big party place for you. And then every now and then you'll have a burger. You'll be like, oh, this is the best burger I've ever had. Or if someone says, In-N-Out Burger is the best. No, you don't get out enough if In-N-Out Burger is the best burger you've had. Why? Because I've had hundreds. I've had a $200 burger at Bardot at the Aria in Las Vegas that was custom. They were willing to change it. And a lot of chefs, especially at that level, they don't like to change things. So they put foie gras and duck confit on, and the damn burger was almost $200. So I'm not saying I'm right with my selections, whether it be the cookie companies, the burgers. What I'm saying is I've had a lot of these, a lot of them. So you have to ask yourself, if you disagree, cool. But you got to ask yourself, how many of these cookies have I had? And to be able to compare and contrast or contrast. It's kind of like frustrate and frustrate. It just depends on whether you're British, whether you're English, where you put that up. Hypertrophy. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. You can say them any way you want. Anyway, I'm going to go with number 5 first, and that is the Detroit Cookie Company. If you try the Detroit Cookie Company, you're going to be like, it's just a regular cookie. But it's not. It looks like a regular cookie because they haven't put 42 things into them. But they will do and do have unique combinations, like might be caramel, a little bit of chocolate, and maybe it's potato chips. And you think, oh my God, I haven't had potato chips. That wouldn't even taste that good. It's not like you bite into it and potato chips, like a bag of Lay's falls out of it. What it is it's combining similar to like a salted caramel. You get a little bit of salty in there from the potato chip. You're not going to taste like, wow, I can taste the potato chip. So they have unique flavors, and then they have their regular sugar cookie. It's a cookie, but it's an insanely good sugar cookie. So the Detroit Cookie Company is great. That's my number 5. My number 4 is out of Seattle. It's called Ray's Cookies. Very good cookies. I want something different with the flavors. It's not that it's bad to have a chocolate chip cookie, but we've all had chocolate chip cookies. To have the best chocolate chip cookie, it's difficult to do. They're not on my list because it's not a cookie company. It's a restaurant or a storefront, but Maman, New York, I agree with Oprah that it's one of the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had. It is very good. It's only about a block and a half away, downtown West Palm. But anyway, my point is again, it comes back to preference. So Ray's Cookies out of Seattle, number 4. Detroit Cookie Company comes in at 5. So I'm going to leave the other top 3 for the next show. But here's my here's my pass that people are going to argue with. Crumble cookies.
Oh, I've even heard about them.
Yes.
And yeah.
Here's the thing, and I need to say this so that people understand. They are good. They're good. It's not like they're over the top, but they're good. But they're desserts. They're not cookie. You can't pick the cookie up because it falls apart. You have to literally almost eat it with a fork.
It's a cake, basically.
Yeah, it's a cake, or it's just so limp that everything on top of it, they have one that might be like a blueberry cheesecake, as an example. It's good. It's also 1,000 calories per cookie. Now, that's not bad because we're not having cookies as a cheat meal or part of a cheat meal based on the caloric intake. We want it to taste good because it's a component. It's a part of our cheat meal. It's something we don't usually get. They're good. But they change their menu every week, and they only have about 5 or 6 different flavors. And you know what? Sometimes I'm looking at it going, only one of those hits me in the feels.
Mm-hmm.
So am I going to order 6 of those, or am I just going to pass and wait for the next week and see what comes out? They also do things like tres leches, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
It's like a spongy
That's
cake.
my favorite.
And it's very, very good. But I'm not going to consider them cookies. I'm going to consider them decadent desserts. And I just don't think their flavors hit all the time. So not a big fan. I understand. And it's a franchise. And I'm not big on franchises, whether it be burgers or whether I'll give them credit when credit is due. But it's the same thing with cookies. I don't know how many times I've had an old white person in a food group on social media tell me, well, I'm not paying $8 for a cookie. It tastes just as good as a Toll House. No, it doesn't. The only thing good about Toll House is it reminds you of your grandma. And she was awesome. My grandma was awesome. I'll eat it for nostalgic purposes. If my grandma makes a Toll House cookie, I'm going to eat it. And it's the best cookie I've ever had until I walk away or I do the podcast 2 hours later. And then I'm going to say my grandma's cookie ain't really all that good. I just like it because grandma made it. Mrs. Fields, same thing. I'm sure that was a good cookie at one time until it was mass produced. And then it's mediocre at best. So my smash is crumble this week. I'm sorry, I keep screwing this up. My pass is crumble this week. And my smash is, of course, number 4 and number 5.
Yep.
And that's Ray's Cookies at 4, Detroit Cookie Company at 5. Next week for the next podcast, I'll do the top 3. I won't leave you hanging, but I will give you a little bit of a teaser. Okay. Number 1 on my list has been number 1 pretty much since the first time. It's over 15 years. It's an institution. Wow. It's arguably iconic. And I'm not going to say where it's from because then people are going to be like, I know what it might be. I got a pretty good idea. But I'll leave it at that. But it has not been beaten. In fact, I have frozen about 12 of different flavors, but one in particular, I'm an oatmeal raisin guy, in my freezer right now. So if I have a hankering for it, I could just let it sit out for the day. Not going to microwave it. Don't ever microwave your cookies. Put them in the oven. Let them warm up. Do not microwave them. So next week, I'll do the top 3.
Nice.
So let's get into the questions.
Yep. All right. This is going to be a question that's going to be asked till the end of time. So it's just fun. We've done separate episodes on the movements, but not compared head to head. So this is from Justin Montgomery, 1255. Question for the next show. Can we talk about barbell squats versus hacks? Everyone swears hacks are better for growth. I might be one of those guys who say a barbell is better. Can you discuss their opinions on which squat variation they like best?
Well, that's easy because as far as Justin is concerned, if he is getting more growth out of squats, keep squatting. It's a no-brainer. But I don't agree for myself and what I've seen in my experience for the vast majority of my clients. Hacks, they're far more, in my opinion, quad dominant. So if you're looking for better, like specifically better quad dominant growth or look that you need to focus more on the quads, I don't think that 99 out of 100 people are going to get a lot more growth out of their quads. They're going to get growth out of their glutes, their hips, their quads to some degree too. Don't get me wrong. but they're going to increase their strength, their power, their arguably their overall strength too. So, I mean, it's not a bad movement. But if I want quad growth, I'm going to go with hacks all day over squats.
Yeah, I can't really say anything other than, yeah, like, so obviously, so Justin, you're probably built like Tom Platt, so you're built to squat, you know, a natural high bar, sink it deep, quads are just ripping off the bone. That's awesome. That's not most people. Most people don't have the right, you know, femur to tibia to torso length. They don't have the required ankle mobility. Yes, you could elevate your heels like we've talked about in depth on our squat episode, which I think most people should do. I still think it's important to take time to learn how to squat, but because it's just so foundational. But once you've learned how to squat, if you're like most people where it's building the turnip legs John Meadows talked about, where it's all glute and adductor, take a look at the result. And also, are you bodybuilding squatting or are you powerlifting squatting, right? Because that's two totally different things. I will choose a hack over squat. It just fits my structure better. Yeah. So
I would even take, I don't want to go in a bunch of different directions, but I would even take a belt squat over a barbell squat, because you can change whether you're more upright, whether you're more, I guess, a little more glute dominant. And you can make that exercise even more quad dominant by positioning yourself further back away from the pulley. And I'm saying you have the pulley version and you have the hinge, I guess, or lever version. But with the pulley version, you do have a lot more. You still have variations with the lever too, but I would say that there's more of a variation with the pulley than there is even with the lever. But I would put the belt squat even over a barbell squat. Hell, I don't know that I wouldn't put a pendulum over it, to be honest. A pendulum is a little bit more isolative than a hack. So I would, if I had to pick between, that'd be hard. That'd be really hard. I would bet that if we go back to the pendulum and the hack squat show that we did, I probably went with the pendulum.
So
but
if I
did hacks for years.
I think we both said hacks got us to where we're at, but then pendulums keep us to where we're at.
Yep.
Okay. I think most people will say that, right? Less shearing force, less compressive loads on the spine. I mean, I love hacks. I love, I was never a crazy strong squatter. My Widowmaker Smith squats were impressive for my size. And that was just quieting the voices in my head. So that was great. But 5 to 10 rep max, never impressive. But you give me 20, 30, 47 reps, I think was my all-time best Widowmaker. Yeah, great. But hacks and pendulums are what I typically do now. Awesome. Great. And then one more real quickly from Cornelius Parkin 2401. Why would the average person not grow during giant sets? So this is from our intensifiers episode. This is not my experience. Have you taken clients that are natural and done giant sets, yet seen no progress? Or is it more of a gut reaction due to the blood and guts mindset conditioning?
Yeah. And I think I commented on it, but I can't remember how I commented. But how I feel about it is this, because I think he was relating it to natural clients too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The recovery for a natural client is not very good compared to the geared client. So when you get into these high intensity variables or these high intensity techniques, you got to be very careful as you put your foot up to that line of too much intensity. So they can be useful very, very infrequently, but we're not talking about supersets. We're not talking about rest pause. We're talking about some very, very demanding work that's being done when you're doing that many exercises in a row. So I'd go so far as to say this, even the person who is geared and has a decent recovery, if you're doing that too frequently, good luck. Because unless you're genetically gifted, really, and if you're genetically gifted,
doesn't matter.
Typically, you're not doing that style of training anyway, because you're growing from the regular sets are going close to failure. So these are techniques typically used by people with average or mediocre recovery abilities because we're not growing that much and we're looking for ways to grow more. And I've always said it's not the amount of work you can do. We can all do more work. It's the amount of work that you can recover from. And those two things are vastly different.
Yeah, so it's going to be a novel stimulus. So for sure, it could create some growth, but I think, yeah, short term, that style of training is going to be burning through glycogen way more than, DC one rest pause set. So hence, that is typically tied to large protocols of, what, that is not the scope of this podcast.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. He's getting results. I won't program them. Also, you've got to be working out in a gym at a very slow time, which not everybody has access to. You've got to be really smart with programming. Your nutrition's got to be dialed in. So yeah, to different strokes, different folks. Could be valuable to teach somebody some training intensity, work on your cardio conditioning. You're obviously, if you want to flatten yourself out, some giant set workouts will flatten yourself out. That's for darn sure. So there's benefit to that.
To remember the cybergenics and biogenics?
So I've heard about it. I was not training them, but I've heard about it and all the funny stories and just, it was
based on giant sets as well.
Yeah. And you're just destroying yourselves, but you have all these fancy pills that were going to make you. And I think most people I've heard talk about it said they got smaller. Like I did every exercise in Arnold's encyclopedia when I first started lifting. And I was only, folks, I was 155 pounds at 22 years old when I started lifting. So I was a stream being, and I swear I sunk down even more, right? Doing that of just doing way too much.
I lasted a week, if not even a full week on the cybergenics giant. I literally said to myself, as much as I love this, as much as I love bodybuilding, if this is what it takes, I will not do it.
Yep. It's they're lucky it wasn't now, because the amount of rhabdo and lawsuits would have been through the roof.
Oh man, I can't even imagine how many people had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, there were little things like you couldn't drink cold water. You had to drink warm water because the body would expend energy.
It sounds so good.
It's so bizarre.
Sounds so good. Yeah.
But they made a lot like I'm sure with that kit, because I couldn't. I mean, I was ready to rob a 7-Eleven, and I think I was 15 years old. Like, where can I steal this $200?
Yep.
$200 to me at 15. That's 20 grand to me now.
Yeah. No,
that's funny.
Awesome. Yep. That's what we got. So we need questions, folks. Skip and I were literally combing through old episodes. So please ask your questions. And remember, you're going to be entered into a drawing that we will be drawing for July next time we record.
Exactly. And I want to thank everybody too, because we do have a lot of interaction, a lot of comments. We just don't have as many questions as we did when we started. So where are we? Like the 24th, 25th?
Yeah, I think we're doing 24 tomorrow.
Yep.
Which is awesome. It was funny. I had to look up something on episode 3 for a patient. I was like, man, we've come a long way.
Yeah. You don't want to watch too much of those. Go back and watch too much of those episodes. Anytime anybody asks me, well, where do I start? I'm like, I'd start now and go backwards. Don't start at the beginning, because you might be like, I don't know. There was a learning curve there, and we're still learning.
Correct.
But it is certainly getting better. On that note, we got to get to getting. Skip and Dr. Marv splitting. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. If you didn't like the show, pretend you did, and like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell anyway. It should sound a little something like this. Remember, if your question or topic is chosen and used on the show, you'll be entered into the monthly drawing. We'll randomly choose one winner at the end of each month who will receive a $150 shopping spree from EliteFTS.com, a 5-pound bag of Team Skip protein from TrueNutrition.com, and Dr. Marv's online bodybuilding anatomy course. Be sure to use the TrueNutrition.com link in the closing credits to save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. Not only do I use my Team Skip protein with my clients, but other top prep guys have their clients use my protein because it's that good. Dr. Marv, how could someone reach out to you if they have questions or if they want to work with you?
Easiest way is Instagram at marvin.saysdc. My office is Coastal Performance Chiropractic in the Houston Bay Area. I do telemedicine for all of Texas. If you're not in Texas, don't worry. Go to theeducatedmeathead.com for consults, workout programs, courses, seminars, promo codes, all that jazz.
If you have too much skin, meaning you say you're 15%, but your fat ass is well over 20%, go to teamskip.com and you'll find all my contact information, including Team Skip merch. You can also follow me on Instagram at Intense Muscle. Keep in mind that this is a team of 3, not 2. Chris is the enigma behind the scenes, and he is responsible for the visuals and the graphics. And he also plays a huge role in the creative process. This project would not work without him. So from all 3 of us, it's been a business doing pleasure with you. Join us again next week for another episode of Between Two Dumbbells.